Hello, welcome to Isamizu, Global Conscious Wellness, and I'm Dr. Jun.
I'm Dr. Isabel, and with us we have an amazing, knowledgeable expert, Pratibha Shah, and she is an international renowned Ayurveda expert. She has helped a lot of people, and she has even brought her to attention at the White House, the Department of Health and Human Services. She has helped the Consulate General of India in New York City. And her work has been nominated in the top 20th Women of the Year.
Wow.
For the year of 2014. She is a senior faculty of the Ayurveda domain expert for Kerala Ayurveda Academy. Well, welcome to our channel.
Welcome.
Nice meeting
Thank
and
you.
talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Delighted to be here. Delighted to be in your company.
Thank you so much. So a lot of people, we do talk about Ayurveda and we talk a lot about the doshas and the body type, but could you explain like a simple version or a simple explanation of what Ayurveda is, please?
I would love to, because that's what I bring to the table is the simplification of everything. I love to simplify everything. So I'm going to try and share the definition of Ayurveda in a very simplified manner, which is easily understandable and will give a little bit of an overview, really what this ancient health science stands for. So first of all, to begin with, Ayurveda is one of the world's most ancient, continuously practiced system of health. I'm refraining from using the word medicine. So not a system of medicine, but a system of health, because medicine is just one small part of health. So I'm deliberately using the word health. So it is one of the world's most ancient, continuously practiced system of health, about 5,000 plus years old, native to India. And the word Ayurveda is a compound word, means it's like a complex Sanskrit word, and it is made up of two individual Sanskrit words, Ayu and Veda. Ayu means life, Veda means science of or knowledge of. So simply translated, Ayurveda is that compendium of knowledge that talks about every aspect of life. So I like to say that if life is a game, Ayurveda is the user manual of the game of life that allows us to play competently, efficiently, successfully, complete the whole game, and win the game.
Oh my gosh,
Wow.
that's amazing.
Well
That's
said.
an amazing explanation.
Beautiful.
And everybody will be able to understand that. very
Please
clearly.
remember, everybody, this is Pratibha.
And I would like to add actually one more thing that your listeners might like, and everybody might get a little bit more sense of what Ayurveda brings to the table that is unique. So if I was going to just share like an elevator pitch with someone about what Ayurveda is, I like to say Ayurveda is about 3 P's. One is prevention, second is promotion, and third is personalization. So Ayurveda is actually the mother of personalized medicine. Of course, today we are beginning to hear about personalized medicine, which is basically based on your genome, what your genetic makeup is. And that is how the current definition of personalized medicine is being described. But Ayurveda 5,000 years ago has already stated in its ancient texts that no two people are alike. So personalization is a big part of Ayurveda, which really means that Ayurveda recognizes who you are and values it and utilizes that information that you are a very unique blueprint, and therefore your wellness plan or your health plan has got to be for you, not something that is a one size fits all. So that's a very important part of Ayurveda, or a unique aspect of Ayurveda, that is the personalization part. And prevention is another big part, because, you know, um, when we have the gadget, any gadget in our house, first thing we do is, what is the blueprint, or what is the model, right? So that is the personalization part. But the second thing we do is, we pick up the user manual and we find out, what can this model do properly, like well, and what this model cannot do, and thirdly, what are some of its maintenance requirements? These three we always do for anything around us, whether it's a laptop or whether it's a new robotic cleaner. We pick up the user manual and we read all this, right? For us, we never do that. We never try to understand, who am I? It's all about what's everybody else doing, what is popular, right? And we never try to see what are our unique strengths. Can I ride on my strengths? And can I be proactive about my weak areas? For example, this is an Android. This cannot do FaceTime. If I continuously try to FaceTime and it's not doing it, and I'm getting frustrated, I don't think I'm being very smart. So similarly, I think what body typing, which is the personalization piece in Ayurveda, what it allows us to do is, it allows us to, me as a caregiver, to understand how I can help my client better. But it also helps the client to understand, who am I, and what are some of my strengths, what are some of my not so strong areas or weak areas, so that I can watch out for them proactively. And what are some of the maintenance requirements for my kind of model, right? We do that all the time, like security updates, system updates, everything we are doing for our gadgets. But for us, what are some of the maintenance requirements, which is self-care, and that is primary prevention. Because what we have in the name of prevention today is not primary prevention. When we are screening for diseases, we are already saying that if the disease has developed, that cannot be primary prevention, means disease has already developed. Primary prevention is where you live in a way where diseases don't develop. And Ayurveda, half of it is focused only on that. The first stated goal of Ayurveda is swasthasya swasthya rakshanam, means protection of the health of the healthy. So this is what we do for everything around us. But for us, the same maintenance of health, which is primary prevention, which Ayurveda gives beautiful details, daily care, seasonal care, age-related transition care, like, menarche, menopause for women, like we have so many stages. Menarche, motherhood, menopause, aging, everybody ages. So how do you live in a way so that you can decelerate or slow down that pace? And that is primary prevention. So prevention is big. And promotion is again very unique to Ayurveda, which is, let's say we are born with X amount of health. Ayurveda actually provides us resources, herbs, and this and that, body works, of how you can make that health from X to X plus 2 or X squared. And that concept is not there in any modality in the world. Is how to heart health, how can we make it better? Especially if, let's say, someone knows that there are heart issues in the family. How can you proactively, there is a tree called Arjun, Terminalia arjuna, and the bark of that is cardiotonic, cardioprotective. And that's a well-documented thing. And then Brahmi and Gotukola, these are like nootropic, means they are very beneficial for the brain health, for the neuron health. So people who have Alzheimer's in the family, dementia, they can use it proactively early on in life. And these things will most likely not happen if your lifestyle is good and all that, stress is managed, etc. So this is the beauty of Ayurveda: prevention, promotion, and personalization. So that, in a nutshell, is the beautiful science of Ayurveda.
Yes,
Wow.
indeed, it is.
I can talk about it for hours, so I'll stop
Yes,
here.
we might need to ask you in the future interview a lot about that anti-aging, the prevention, how we can
Yeah.
update our software,
Mhm.
our body.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need
Oh yes. Oh yes.
for an update. So,
Yes. Absolutely. I would love to.
how did you decided to become an Ayurveda expert?
Oh, that's a big story. Maybe you want to keep it for another day. But I always say that Ayurveda chose me. I did not choose Ayurveda. I did not know what is Ayurveda till my 12th grade. Only certain sets of events led me to land in Ayurveda. I was headed to be an architect.
Oh,
But then I just got so wedded to Ayurveda that's why I always say Ayurveda chose me. Then I went on to do an MD in Ayurveda. Then while doing my MD, I gave an All India exam for a national position. And I was one of the 12 selected all over India. I was ranked 5th in India. And I was with the ministry for 13 years. I was a chief medical officer before I left India. After coming here, of course, I had to resign from all that. But I have continued Ayurveda here because it's not I don't say it's my profession, it's my passion.
Just inner calling, like a resonance, right? This, your passion, everything just going to come together. Just like what we're doing here, we become
Exactly.
so passionate, so resonating.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I see among all the Ayurvedic medicine, Ayurvedic healing you provide helping people, you draw into autoimmune. So you kind of mentioned about that in the previous conversation. You're really passionate about the helping autoimmune disease. Could you tell us about it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, Ayurveda principles help to address anything that is kind of, out there, all the new emerging diseases, all the old diseases, and something that may not be there in the Indian subcontinent. For example, Lyme's disease it's endemic to, like Connecticut and certain areas, and it's in US. Lyme's disease, I'm sure you've heard of it. So that's not found in India, for example. But autoimmune diseases, of course, I have a personal connection. I lost one brother to it a few years ago. I was not in Ayurveda when he started getting the problem. And, he was being helped, but then he went back to some of his ways, and other things happened. Liver failure happened, so he did pass away. So yeah, I mean, his liver was already kind of fully gone by the time his autoimmune disease was detected.
might be a good idea to explain to listeners what autoimmune disease is before we go into that.
Right.
Yes,
Sorry.
absolutely. Yes. So autoimmune disease, as the word says, are autoimmune, means which kind of are fighting against our own immunity. So what happens in autoimmune diseases is that the body's tissues lose the intelligence of what is self and what is other. Usually our immune system is developed to attack what is other, like microbes and bacteria, viruses, etc. But in autoimmune diseases, this intelligence starts getting lost and body gets confused. The immune system gets confused. What is me and what is foreign? And it starts attacking itself. And that is why it is really problematic, because it's like US Army is there to protect us, but if it starts attacking its own citizens, it's problematic. Who's going to come and protect us, right? So that's what happens in autoimmune diseases, is that over a period of time, this obviously does not happen overnight, because we are wired to know, our system knows what is me and what is other, what is external. But this very innate intelligence is lost in autoimmune diseases. So there are some facts I'm going to read to you about it, some numbers, because that will put things into perspective. So, according to American Autoimmune Disease Related Association, autoimmune diseases affect about 20% of the US population, and 70% are women. And there are dramatic increase in autoimmune diseases since World War II. And according to this association, it says that it is coincidental with the use of increased chemicals in our farming. And we know today there is something called glyphosate that is being used very, frequently and very commonly in farming practices. So what is happening is that, in our 21st century living, we have become more and more a convenience-based civilization. Everything, everything that we see around us is reflecting that. So, for example, our salt is free flowing. I think, Dr. Yun, you made him. I'm 55. I don't know. You guys look younger, much younger than me, but maybe you may have seen that even like 3 decades ago, salt used to come in clumps, like crystals. Like rock salt, basically. And over a period of time, we didn't want crystals, and we didn't like the brownness of the sugar, so we started bleaching it. We started bleaching our rice, our wheat. Our salt is free flowing, and our grocery stores are filled with aisles of meat. We never stop to think that meat does not grow on trees, right? So how is it there? Just like the produce, it's lining up all the aisles. So clearly something is being done that is not as part of the nature cycle to produce it, right? We are altering the nature's methods of producing foods, right? And we wanted our vegetables to be pretty and perfect. So we have perfectly round tomatoes, we have perfectly sweet melons, and we have 24/7 by year round. All kinds of fruits are available. In the dead of December, you can find watermelons in the breakfast buffet of hotels. Do we stop to think watermelon in December? No, it does not grow in December, right? So those natural cycles we have broken. And our body has evolved with the nature cycles, right? Our body can recognize a plant, but when you start putting powdered proteins, when you start putting pesticide-ridden foods, when you start putting chemicals, when you start putting inflamed pieces of meat, our body starts over a period getting confused, right? Because if, let's say, somebody knocks on our door, we first see from the window, is it someone I know or is it a stranger? Mostly, if it's a stranger, we will not open the door. But over a period of time, if this stranger starts dressing up as somebody we know, ultimately we might open the door, and then that stranger might come and create some trouble inside. Does it make sense? So we have all these strange things now being delivered to us as like this is food. When we put all strange, modified, altered 1%, 2% bleached, processed stuff in our body up to some time it'll try to like, oh, this is strange, I'm going to keep these toxins out. But then some systems might get confused. It does look like food, so I'm going to try and process it. But then again, there is confusion. This is where the intelligence is lost. What is me and what is the other? And that is where the toxins start becoming part of our body, and they start attacking, and they are part of our cells, so they get attacked, and that is where autoimmune diseases develop. This is partly my theory, but also it is now, there is a Dr. Fasano. He's a leading gastroenterologist. in the United States. Of course, he's in the Harvard Medical School and this side of the, all of the academia that is here. He has come up with the theory of the triad of autoimmune diseases, and this is recent. And the triad means triangle, right? Three pieces of the autoimmune diseases. One is genetics, second is environment, and third is gut dysbiosis. So you see that genetics, of course, we have no control on. We don't get to choose our parents, so genes, you can't do anything. Environment, also to an extent, you can't do anything. The water supply, you really can't help it. The air you're breathing, you can't escape it. And the quality of the soil, also, you can't escape. So the third thing, the only component where you can actually do something is your gut. And interestingly, Ayurveda 5,000 years ago has already stated that gut is the central piece of either your health or illness. Whatever it is will come from the gut. And we are hearing a lot about it. Gut is the second brain of the body, and a lot of diseases are being connected to the gut health now. In my opinion, and of course, Ayurveda has really emphasized the centrality of the health of the gut in your overall well-being, mental as well as physical and physiological. But in my opinion, gut is the primary brain of the body. Because if you see carefully, this brain is always listening to this gut brain. Boss, what do I tell the thyroid today? Should I ask it to secrete more or less? And what am I telling the pancreas? This guy is just listening to that gut. And then it is commanding the glands and the organs. But the primary thing, see, where is the action happening on a daily basis? Action is happening in the gut. Why? Because every day we eat, every day the factory opens, it does its work. These people are just listening to the clues. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. So every day, through our diet and lifestyle choices, we are either going more towards health or more towards illness. And all of this general wisdom, Ayurveda has already stated. I always say Ayurveda is a science of common sense, because the biggest irony of the 21st century is that our machines are becoming smarter. We have smartphones, smart computers, smart blackboards and whatnot, and we are becoming unsmarter. We, the creators, are becoming unsmarter. We are trying to create artificial intelligence in our robots, and we are becoming more robotic. Our lives are more robotic. So that is the biggest irony of the 21st century. So coming back to this triad, basically the gut dysbiosis is where the biggest set of health issues are coming in the West. In the West, I don't know, whether these numbers are commonly known to people, but United States spends 18% plus of its GDP on healthcare, which is twice the amount of any other comparable nation, whether European, Canada, etc., OECD countries, and with worst health outcomes. This is a known thing. Yes. And most of the disease burden is from chronic illnesses. And when you say chronic, they're all preventable.
That's something that I wanted to ask you, because that's something we say constantly. The majority of chronic diseases are preventable. So you think autoimmune disease can also be preventable?
Absolutely, because this is something that, so I want to read you just a few more facts about the autoimmune diseases, just some numbers and some challenges. So as per the National Institute of Health, around 24 million Americans suffer from autoimmune diseases, and the prevalence is rising. In comparison, cancer affects up to 9 million people, and heart disease up to 22 million. They are both lower numbers than autoimmune diseases. Mm-hmm. And 80 to 100 different autoimmune diseases have been identified, and 40 more are suspected of having an autoimmune origin. This is just mind blowing.
Yeah.
And these diseases tend to be chronic in nature, and it takes up to 10 years to diagnose an autoimmune disease, even for experts, because they start very vague. You know, these days we are hearing symptoms like brain fog. This was never a part of medical terminology, even 10 years ago. But patients are coming. I have brain fog. Now it is becoming such a commonly heard word. I'm sure you also have heard about it. And what I was reading here, it also, you know, this set of facts about autoimmune diseases is said that most of the patients with autoimmune diseases are labeled as chronic complainers by the medical doctors. This is a documented fact. I have gotten this from the American Association of Autoimmune Related Diseases. So these are hard facts. And the sad part is that there are some biomarkers like you know, ANA or the double strand nuclear antibody test, and these are available for the doctor to test up to 5-6 years as they start suspecting clinically, if they can. But the problem is that as our life is becoming more unsmart, our medical industry is becoming more robotized. You know, it's more system based. We have more super specialists. We have a left arm specialist and a right arm specialist, but they don't talk to each other. And you know, the heart doctor says, I'm going to get your heart perfectly all right and within the biomarkers. If it's impacting the kidneys, I really can't help it. You may need to see a urologist. Now, from the client perspective, the heart also belongs to the poor person and the kidneys also belong to the poor person, right? Heart cannot live on its own, or the person can't just live with the heart. So that is where we are losing that whole system approach, that, you know, the overall full well-being is important. You can't just get the heart all right, or just the kidneys all right, or just the sugar all right at the cost of other organs failing. So the doctors are themselves not very well informed about the latest developments in autoimmune diseases, so they don't test. So it takes average about, and this is documented data, about 10 to 12 years before you can get a diagnosis. So Ayurveda, because it operates through the gut health and overall well-being, and what the two terms we use is Agni, which is the metabolism or the metabolic health, and Ama, which is the toxins in the body. So we always start from there. And autoimmune diseases are secondary to the confusion in the gut, basically. And this is being, as I said, the triad, the gut dysbiosis is a big part of the autoimmune diseases. And that is what you can alter. I cannot alter anybody's genes. Nobody can. Maybe at some point we can. We can chip the genes, and that's coming up, maybe.
We could change the expression, but not really.
Yes, the epigenetics of it. And gut health is really, you can change it. Of course, it's in more and more, it's difficult to find clean food. And I always tell my clients, you know, the front of any product is what the manufacturer wants you to see. But the real story is on the backside.
Yes.
Always, of anything you're picking up, you know. So educate yourself, inform yourself. And it's funny that now you can get the ugly vegetables, which are the heirloom vegetables, and now you have to pay more for it, because now those are difficult to find, the real, like, you know, the wild grown without pesticides, etc. and they're very irregular. Like you'll get irregular tomatoes and all that. You know, when I was doing my master's in public health, I had worked with a group of youth in South Boston, and we had the community garden and all that. And those high schoolers, they swore, they said, first time we are loving the vegetables, and we have never had this kind of taste. And they then stopped buying from the grocery stores, and they give community hours for that community garden, and hopefully they are still growing it. I'm just hoping. But you know, it's strange what we have done to ourselves in the name of convenience, and the question is, for what? That's the $1 million question. For what?
Do you think there is any emotional component that is causing this different chronic diseases and autoimmune diseases?
Absolutely, because gut gets impacted not just by what we eat from our mouth, but what we eat through our senses, through our ears, through our eyes, through our mind, through our emotional food. So this is a well-known fact that, you know, psychosomatic is a, you know, commonly used word now, but basically it means that body affects mind, mind affects body. And we know fear, diarrhea, like, you know, when people are very scared, they can have urgency of bowel immediately, or, you know, gut and gut functions can get impacted. So definitely that's a huge component. I'm glad you asked that question, because overall I feel the whole civilization, especially in the West, again, because I come from the East, I've had a taste of both lives, especially in the West, the level of stress is alarming, and especially in the youth. And you know, I work with the youth now through my nonprofit, and I'm trying to work on this part of things, but you know, very worrisome, because anything that's going on here will impact this brain. And there is fragility, there is vulnerability, there is sensitivity. And we are seeing that people are getting sensitive to so many types of foods, even which are clean sometimes. Of course, the altered foods that make sense, that you can have irritation of the gut. But even with clean food, the sort of the strength of metabolism is being lost quite a bit.
So true. So true.
Mm. So well connected, isn't it? So this is as we had to look at the whole aspect. That's why Ayurvedic medicine is so unique and so complete in a way,
So complete.
right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
the integrated way.
Yes. So Ayurveda brings not only just the kind of diet, lifestyle, spices, home remedies, etc. Though that's one aspect, but there are so many therapeutic formulations. We have 10,000 plus formulations in Ayurveda.
Really.
Oh yes, oh yes. So very, very potent, very classical, means mentioned in all the ancient texts, and very powerful combinations of so many herbs and minerals, and they are really magical. I mean, I have had a lot of success in my practice of 30 plus years. And it's almost miraculous, because like Isabel, I had mentioned about this client who had Graves' disease. And for 10 years, she was on chemical drugs, etc., with no relief at all. A lot of palpitation. So it's the opposite of hypothyroidism, where, you know, you have excess thyroid hormone production, and palpitations, tremors, and sweating, and what she was absolutely not able to function, and under 100 pounds weight. And within, I think, 6 weeks of coming on to consultation with me, she was symptomatically so much better. And I think within 2 months, she was due for her blood test. All her numbers came normal, and she's off of the medications as of last year. And her endocrinologist is shocked, literally. So that's the answer, that yes, these things can be turned around. And that client was, I would give a lot of credit to her also, that she followed all of the recommendations to the T. And she's not even on the herbs now. Like, uh, I just see her every now and then whenever she needs to touch base for something. I got cough or cold or something or the other. I got a sty in my eye, or so she might reach out for that. But the Grace disease is gone.
This is incredible, and this is something that we definitely want listeners to just pay attention to, because a lot of the times we have symptoms and we have signs in our bodies, and then we go
Yes.
to the doctors and the labs don't show anything. And as you said, 10, 12 years later is when they find out that there was an autoimmune disease or a chronic condition that was brewing, and they were having the symptoms, but then the
Yes.
doctors were not able to see it or to recognize it because of the labs. So we need to be preventing these chronic conditions now when we start having this. Well, of course, before the symptoms, but if you have symptoms, even more. So if somebody
Yes.
has an autoimmune disease or is having some of the symptoms, what can they do? What can Ayurveda help? Or what is it that is necessary for them to prevent it or improve it?
Very good three tips, like, something that you can suggest. Three things they must pay attention to. So, no.
Yeah. So I think there are certain conditions where you can do like first aid, like home remedies. I don't think autoimmune conditions fall in that category. So I would say find a practitioner for sure. And until you find a practitioner, you can start screening your food intake and your lifestyle and see how you can get to at least 5 principles of eating. One is real food. So a snack bar is not real food, for sure. Yes. So real food. Second is clean food. So clean is not just washing, but basically, the dirty dozen, for example. If your listeners do not know dirty dozen, you can look it up. And you will see a list of 12 foods, common foods like grapes, tomatoes, etc., and berries, which are more pesticide ridden than any other foods. They retain the pesticides. So real, clean, fresh. Even if you want to cook and freeze and then use it, I would say that's so much better than maybe a McDonald's food that looks fresh, but maybe it was prepared a month ago somewhere in a facility and it was lying in the freezer. So real, clean, fresh, unaltered. Unaltered means where, people come and tell me, I have my protein shake, which is completely natural. And when I ask, what all do you put? I put powder of this and powder of that. Well, that's not the way the nature produces it. So even if you're having whey protein, I would say still it is altered, and 1% and 2% and all of this, I say whatever you want to take real and whole. So unaltered is very important, and unprocessed. So these 5 thumb rules, if people can start following, because this is going to be part of my recommendations also. Start following this, and this itself will give you a lot of relief, I can assure you. And remember that when one starts feeling all these vague symptoms like brain fog and joint aches and this and that, basically the gut is under stress. So at that time, the simple common sense thing is that you don't put extra pressure on that system. In our house, if the blender starts giving some smell, like burning smell, we tell everyone, oh, don't do any heavy duty work on it, because it's something is breaking down. So recognize that your gut is breaking down at that time. And a lot of people will be having nuts at that time, a lot of nuts, and nuts are heavy. we get butters from nut, right? So that they are really heavy. And these are the things to think of. How can I eat something light, soupy, stewy, warm, cooked, so that it's easy on the digestive system? These are some of the at home things that people can do. But I think it's important to contact a practitioner. I had a 32-year-old come just 2 months ago, and she was having severe joint ache. And I told her, based on my assessment, I told her, you could be having beginning of rheumatoid arthritis. And she said, I'm just 32 and there's no rheumatoid arthritis in my family. I said, we'll think about that later. Go and get a RA factor done. It came out positive. Of course, as of today, it's also negative. Sorry, she came 6 months ago and we just did the test again 2 months ago, a repeat test, and it's RA negative. So she's
In
4 months. 4 months because it was caught early. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, she's 32 and no one was suspecting. How can a 32-year-old have rheumatoid arthritis? But all her symptoms, and this was a Zoom consultation, I didn't even see her in person because 6 months ago, we were still under kind of, very strict, preventative practices. So, and she's given me also a testimonial. I've still not put it up yet, but this is a case where the biomarker so quickly got negative, RA factor is a measure of autoimmunity. Yeah. So these are some of the things to keep in mind if you are suspecting that you have an autoimmune disease. Yeah. Brain fog means there is fog in your gut. Please take it as a given and start taking care of your gut right then. And it's helpful lifelong. It's not just for the autoimmune disease. Give your gut clean things. We put the premium fuel in the car. What about us?
Right.
Exactly. Yes.
Cheapest. I'm getting a sandwich for $4. It's okay. You eat half sandwich, but eat it clean. Eat one free range egg rather than, like general 2-3 eggs. That's what I'd like to say,
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. That's amazing. Any recommendations? One last thing, recommendation, so people can start other than the food for their gut. Like, do you recommend probiotics, things like that?
I would say, first of all, remove the iced water from your intake.
Oh, that's a great suggestion. Yes.
Yeah, because it's like, you're just about to cook on your burner and you're putting just cold iced water on the burner before you're beginning to cook. So start avoiding iced water. And dietary probiotics are really helpful, like kimchi, kombucha, miso, sauerkraut. These things, I would say, small portions of it will start inoculating the gut back with good bacteria. So the microbiome will start shifting, and that will help a lot. Instead of pills, I would say dietary probiotics. They are much better.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was fun. Thank you.